Hi kids, time for more bedtime stories. Tonight we're going to read Disney's Princess Collection and we're going to start with Robin Hood, Prince of Outlaws. Long ago in Sherwood Forest there lived two outlaws. Their names were Robin Hood and Little John. They were clever and fast and the best archers in the land. Prince John wanted them arrested and sent his soldiers after them, but they escaped. With their many disguises and skills, they stole all of his gold, jewels, and once even his royal robe. The people of Nottingham thought of the outlaws as heroes, and when the sheriff came to collect high taxes, Robin never failed to replenish the coins in the villagers' pockets. Once the sheriff even took a bunny's birthday money, leaving the large rabbit family totally penniless. When Robin Hood arrived, he gave little Skippy his bow and arrow and his hat to make up for the lost present. The bunnies were delighted, and Mother Rabbit thanked him as he put a bag of gold in her hand. "You risk so much to keep our hopes alive, Robin Hood. Bless you." As Robin returned to his hideout, the beautiful Maid Marian was dreaming of her childhood sweetheart. Staring at Robin Hood's wanted poster, she confided in her best friend, Lady Cluck. "Surely he must know how much I still love him," she sighed. With a smile, Clucky assured her that they would be together soon. Meanwhile, Robin was thinking of Maid Marian as well. "I love her, Johnny," he confessed. Little John was not surprised. "Just marry the girl," he advised, but Robin shook his head hopelessly. "What have I got to offer her?" he asked. "I'm an outlaw. What kind of future is that?" Just then Friar Tuck appeared. Overhearing the conversation, he became indignant. "Oh, for heaven's sake, son," he claimed, "you're not an outlaw. Someday you'll be called a great hero." Robin Hood and Little John laughed as they thought, as Friar Tuck told them about an archery tournament. Maid Marian had promised to kiss the winner. Robin's eyes gleamed. He could win that contest blindfolded. In his greatest disguise yet, Robin entered the tournament with a wink at his love. "I wish you luck," Maid Marian told him. Then she whispered, "With all my heart." Unknowingly, Robin had fallen right into a trap set by Prince John. As he won the contest, he was unmasked, arrested, and sentenced to death. "Please, no," Maid Marian pleaded with Prince John. Confessing her love, she begged for Robin's life to be spared. "Marian, my darling," Robin declared, "I love you more than life itself." The prince refused to listen, but Little John would not let Robin down. With a knife pressed into Prince John's back, he forced the tyrant to release his friend. And as the crowd cheered, Robin and Maid Marian embraced, but it wasn't long before the Sheriff of Nottingham worked out what was happening. Quickly, Little John threw a sword towards Robin, and while fending off the sheriff's soldiers, Robin swept Maid Marian off her feet and asked her to marry him. "Darling, I thought you'd never ask," she answered happily. Even Lady Cluck joined to fight against the soldiers, and they all escaped into Sherwood Forest. Together again, Maid Marian and Robin Hood kissed in the romance of a night filled with fireflies. Offering her a ring made from flowers, Robin pledged his love to her, and the two walked back to camp hand in hand. Their merriment did not last long, however, as Prince John was angry about being humiliated. Tripling the taxes, he ordered the sheriff to arrest all who could not pay. And unfortunately, the prison filled quickly. Even Friar Tuck was arrested. Robin Hood and Little John decided it was time to stage a jailbreak. They knew the sheriff would be on alert, but Robin was a master of disguise, and in no time he had fooled the guards and lulled the sheriff to sleep, stealing his keys. As Little John released the prisoners, Robin crept into Prince John's bedroom and removed every last bag of gold. Soon after, the rightful king, King Richard, returned and sent Prince John and his servants to prison. As the friends all gathered to celebrate the joyful wedding of Robin Hood and Maid Marian, Nottingham was happy and peaceful once again. The Lion King 2. Simbas Pride. Love withstands anything. Kiara was warned never to go to the Outlands, but her father Simba, the Lion King, wouldn't tell her why. What could be so terrible? Kiara wondered. Curiously, as soon as her faithful guardians Timon and Pumbaa were distracted by their favourite pastime of eating bugs, she crept towards the Forbidden Land. There she met another lion cub named Kovu. The two cubs helped each other to cross a dangerous river full of crocodiles. And exhilarated by the adventure, Kiara exclaimed, "We make a good team!" With admiration, she smiled at Kovu. "You were very, very brave," she told him. He looked at her curiously. His mother, Zara, had always taught him that Pridelanders could not be trusted. Yet this lioness had saved him from the crocodile's teeth. "Yes, you were pretty brave too," Kovu admitted. Happily, Kiara began to prance around him. She was laughing and wanted to play, but Kovu didn't understand. He had never played tag. Just as Kiara began to smile and make him laugh, their parents arrived with bared teeth. Kara's father, Simba, was the enemy of Kovu's mother, Zara, because Zara was loyal to Scar, who had murdered Simba's father. The Lion King had banished her to the Outlands. Focused on revenge, Zara was raising Kovu to hate. Her plan was to overthrow Simba and make her son the new king. "Take your cub and get out," Simba ordered. As they were separated, the cubs sadly whispered goodbye. It was not until they were fully grown that the two saw each other again. Kiara was a beautiful young lioness out on her first hunt, and she had made her father promise not to interfere. But Simba was protective of his only daughter, and as usual, he'd sent Timon and Pumbaa to watch over her from a distance. When Kiara came upon Timon and Pumbaa during her chase, she felt betrayed and angry. Wanting to prove that she could manage on her own, she raced away to hunt in the Outlands. Unaware that Zara and the outsiders were watching her every move, she fell into their trap easily, and quickly Zara and her followers set the plains on fire in a circle around Kiara. The young lioness ran until she fell unconscious. It was then that Kovu appeared. Trained to avenge Scar, he rescued the princess only to get closer to his goal of killing Simba. He was ready for anything, except falling in love. "Thanks for saving me," Kiara said after Simba reluctantly allowed Kovu to return with her to the Pride Rock. She was happy to have him back in her life, and she unwittingly distracted Kovu from his mission. Leading him away from her father, Kiara asked him to impress her with his expertise in stalking. As Kovu showed her how to pounce quietly, they ran into Timon and Pumbaa. The silly animals were trying to rid their feeding ground of annoying birds. "Will you help us?" asked Timon. With a roar, Kiara gave chase. "Why are we doing this?" asked Kovu, puzzled. "For fun," answered Kiara. She showed Kovu the joy of laughter, and he was exhilarated by the new experience. Even after being chased by angry hippos, he was happier than he'd ever been. "Oh, what fun!" he shouted, smiling at Kiara, and by accident the two bumped noses bashfully. "You're okay, kid," said Timon. And that night, Kovu and Kiara lay on the grass looking at the stars. "Do you think Scar's up there?" Kovu asked tentatively. He wasn't my father, but he is a part of me. Kiara knew he was troubled and tried to comfort her friend, but he pulled away, feeling confused. Kovu wasn't sure if he should follow his mother's plan or follow his heart. Nearby, the wise baboon Rafiki was watching. Leading the two lions to a place he called a pendi, Rafiki placed them in a boat. And as Kovu watched Kiara during the wild ride, he gave in to his feelings for her, kissing and laughing. Kiara guessed, Upendi means love, doesn't it? Deciding not to follow in Scar's footsteps, Kovu made peace with Simba. When the outsiders found out, they set a trap for Simba. He managed to escape, but he believed Kovu was responsible for the trap and exiled him. Kiara was heartbroken. She knew that Kovu couldn't have been responsible for the trap, so she ran away and followed Kovu to a watering hole. Hey, look, we're joined together, Kovu said. Looking at their reflection together in the water, they now knew their love could survive anything. Racing back to the Pride lands, Kiara begged her father to make peace with the outsiders. We are one pride, she declared. With peace settling over Pride Rock once more, Simba accepted Kovu's love for Kiara, and together they joined the king and queen for a celebration of unity and love. Oliver and Company, Friends in Need. The orphaned kitten left alone in New York City didn't stand much of a chance. But a streetwise dog named Dodger had taken pity on the poor kitten. The kitten was thankful to the dog, and Dodger had protected him from vicious Dobermans and took him on board to the old barge where he lived as part of a gang. Tito, Einstein, and Rita were glad to have a new friend, and the master of the boat, Fagin, had been kind and gentle, reading a story while petting the kitten in his lap. Happily, the kitten curled up next to Dodger for the night. As the dog watched the kitten sleeping beside him, he felt a protective bond and smiled tenderly at his new friend. The next day, the group set out to help Fagin. The poor man owed money to a gangster named Sykes, and the loyal dogs would do whatever they could to lend a paw. They decided to split up and do their work, and Dodger told Tito, the Chihuahua, to keep his eye on the kitten. The kitten was ready for adventure and followed Tito into an expensive car. As the Chihuahua tried to remove the car stereo, the kitten jumped onto the dashboard nervously, hitting the horn and blasting Tito out. The terrified kitten tried to hide, but a little girl named Jenny leaned over from the back seat to comfort him. As she cuddled him, the kitten felt happier than he'd ever been before. I'm going to take you home, she promised. Lovingly, Jenny carried the kitten into her fancy Fifth Avenue apartment. She named him Oliver and made him a special meal, promising that she would take good care of him. Together they played and practiced piano. Jenny bought Oliver a beautiful silver bowl and a collar with a shiny name tag. She had been very upset when her parents had said they wouldn't be home for her birthday, but now she wasn't lonely anymore. She had Oliver. Oliver was her new friend. At school the next day, Jenny felt excited about the kitten waiting for her at home. Little did she know that Dodger and the gang were sneaking him out of the house while she was away. Proud of their rescue, Dodger let Oliver out of the bag when they returned to the boat. You're home now, he told the kitten proudly. But Oliver wasn't pleased. I was happy there, he said sadly. I want to go back. Dodger felt crushed and reacted angrily. Leave then, he said harshly, nodding towards the side of the boat. Oliver was sorry that he'd hurt his friends, but he knew he belonged with Jenny. Apologetically, he started to leave when Fagin appeared. Noticing Oliver's expensive name tag, the desperate man came up with an idea to ransom the kitten in hope of exchanging Oliver for the money he needed to pay his debt to Sykes. Unfortunately, Jenny received the note. The heartbroken little girl set out to find Oliver. With her vain and spoiled dog, Georgette, at her side, she carried her piggy bank and followed the map Fagin had written. Eventually, Jenny found her way to the boat. "Excuse me, I'm trying to get my kitten back," she told Fagin. Feeling ashamed, he returned Oliver to her, but at that moment Sykes drove up in his black limousine. The little girl was worth much more money than the kitten, he thought, pulling her through the window. Oliver was distraught. "We'll get her back," promised Dodger. Teaming up, the group made a daring rescue, escaping from Sykes' warehouse with Jenny. However, the evil man's car was faster than Fagin's three-wheeled motorbike, and Sykes caught Jenny by the hand. Oliver courageously jumped into the car and bit him, and Fagin saved the little girl, while Dodger leapt up to protect Oliver and fought the Dobermans in the back of the limousine. Finally, the chase ended when Sykes' car sped off the unfinished bridge. Dodger and Oliver jumped off just in time, and quickly Fagin returned to get them, but as Jenny lifted Oliver, he was unconscious. They all looked sorrowfully at the brave kitten. Just as he opened his eyes, "Oliver!" cried Jenny, swinging him around joyfully. The little girl embraced the kitten happily as he purred in her arms. And when Jenny celebrated her birthday, she invited all her animal friends, and Fagin too. They had a party fit for a princess. Tarzan, you'll always be in my heart. Young Tarzan looked with anguish at his reflection in the water and covered his face with mud. He desperately wanted to fit in with the other gorillas. "Why am I different?" he thought. He wanted to look like the rest of his family. He wanted to move as surely through the trees and be as strong too. When his mother, Carla, found him, she felt his pain, and trying to comfort Tarzan, she showed him that they had the same hands and that her heartbeat was the same as his. Enveloped in his mother's hug, the boy felt a new strength and determination. "I'll be the best ape ever," he promised. True to his word, Tarzan grew into an adult with great skills. He imitated the jungle animals and wrestled with his best friend Turk, until he developed ways to overcome her superior strength. He swung from the trees with great speed with a spear he had invented. He was able to rescue Kerchak, the gorilla leader, from a vicious leopard Sabor. Proudly, he earned acceptance from his peers. Up until the day he met Jane, Tarzan had put his doubts and miseries behind him. When gunshots rang out one day, Tarzan investigated the strange noise. He was surprised to come upon three strange creatures. Clayton, a hunter, was leading Professor Porter and his daughter Jane on an expedition to study gorillas. When Jane stayed behind to sketch a young baboon, Tarzan rescued her from the baboon's angry family. After a terrifying chase, Jane tried to back away from the wild man, but he came closer to her, touching her hands with a look of fascination. They were just like his. When he listened to her heartbeat and laid her head against his own chest, she was afraid, but she realized that he wasn't going to hurt her. Though his eyes were intense, his smile was kind and his manner gentle. "Tarzan," he spoke, pointing to himself, and they began to communicate. Slowly, Tarzan learned Jane's language. Visiting the human camp, he was fascinated by pictures of people and places. Everything was new to Tarzan. Jane and her father excitedly became Tarzan's teachers. "I've never seen him so happy," said Tarzan's friends, as they watched him pick flowers for Jane. He could not stop thinking about her. The bond between them had become more than simple attraction. And one morning, Tarzan arrived at the campsite, but was surprised to learn it was time for Jane to leave. "Jane, stay," pleaded Tarzan, as he handed her some flowers. Jane cried and ran away. She was as upset as Tarzan about leaving. Nearby, Clayton was forming a wicked plan. Wanting to capture the gorillas, he made Tarzan believe that Jane might stay if she could meet the apes. Jane and her father were thrilled when Tarzan brought them to his family. Joyfully, Jane watched Tarzan talking to the young gorillas. "Can you teach me?" Jane asked. Gently, Tarzan helped her form the gorilla words. As the apes reacted noisily, Jane wanted to know what he had taught her to say. "Jane stays with Tarzan," he told her, but she shook her head. That evening, Tarzan sat in the tree watching the distant boat anchored offshore. He wasn't sure what he should do. Carla had told him he was her son, but he looked like the humans. Where did he belong? Carla joined Tarzan in the tree. Silently, she led him to the treehouse where she had found him many years ago. An old picture of his human family was still on the floor. "I just want you to be happy, whatever you decide," she told him. Moments later, he had dressed in his father's clothes. "No matter where I go, you will always be my mother," he said to Carla as he headed towards the beach. "And you will always be in my heart," she replied. Tarzan's friends, Tanta and Turk, watched sadly as the ship pulled away. But moments later, a wild cry of despair reached the shore. Tarzan was in trouble. Clayton had locked him in the hold. He had an evil plan to capture the apes and take them back in cages on the ship. Once home, he planned to sell them. Quickly, the friends swam to the ship, bravely fighting off Clayton's men. They released Tarzan and Jane. "I thought I was never going to see you again," sobbed Tanta. Calling the jungle animals for help, they fought Clayton and his men. But Kerchak, the gorilla leader, was shot trying to save Tarzan. "Forgive me for not understanding that you had always been one of us," the dying gorilla told Tarzan. "Take care of our family, my son." Even though she had said a tearful goodbye to Tarzan once, Jane realized that she loved him too much to leave. Splashing back to shore from the boat, she embraced him joyfully, as friends and family cheered. "Ooh, ooh, ooh," said Jane. "Jane stays with Tarzan." And there they lived happily forever. Time for sleep, little ones. That's the end of our Princess Collection book. Have sweet dreams. Good night.